Hi guys, welcome to the channel. Thank you for watching. This is a mini quilt continued. So I had to square it up. You see it's uneven. So here what I'm doing is I'm aligning my ruler so that I can square up my edges and make sure everything is aligned properly, because as you're doing a quilt, you have to have it all square, because that is going to make for your best corners, as well as it will also make even your binding. So making sure you have a squared quilt is very important, unless you're doing a circle one. But hey, we're doing squares in this particular mini quilt, and I'm using different fabrics. I talked about this on the previous live that you will be able to see on the channel that you'll be able to see on the channel. So yes, so I continue to square it up all four sides, and then I can go on. Now, having the proper ruler for squaring up is also important, and having the appropriate rotary tool, scissors. I prefer rotary. So if you have the appropriate rotary, you can roll right down it actually really nicely, just like I did. And then if you see some extra points that are showing or shearing out, then you can definitely cut those off. So here's my full quilt top, all nice and squared up. All right, so now it's time to set the layers. All right, I have my binding. Remember, I used a 2.5 inch piece out of not a fat quarter bundle, but it is a strip of fabric cut into 2.5 to 2 1/3, and you take it, you fold it in half, you iron it pretty flat, so this way we are making our binding. Now, interesting fact to know is that all of the binding was made by hand. So look, you see that? It's cut in half and it is ready to bind the quilt. So as we start, as we continue on the binding journal, which does take a little time, especially if you have a big quilt, it would take a lot of time. And then I would show you exactly how to bind in the quilt. So all I'm doing is pressing my binding to prep it before I finish my layering of the fabrics. So guys, here's what I'm doing. I'm taking a look at all the different pieces of binding that I have, and I finally found one that would fit. Now, of course, I really wanted to use black, but I didn't have enough of the black, so now I'm on to the cream color batting. So let's get this on here. The key is to make sure that your quilt top is as flat as it's going to go. Now, we cut off the excess of fabric and binding so that you can be ready for the binding process. All right, so now we've cut off all of that fabric for the larger quilt. So once we cut that off, then we will be ready to sew. Now, just watch this, and it will get you through all the things that feel good, smell good, and everything else. Okay? So now let's take a look at this pink. I think that's going to be great for the backing. Looks like it matches. And oh, there's an extra pattern I think I like. Grab and go, grab and go. And you can make it with quilt squares. So, okay, that was my little commercial break. I am not sponsored by anyone. And this is a continuation of the live that was done on Sunday, 6 Central. So go back, check it out. If you haven't watched it, you'll learn quite a bit of things. All right. So the greenhouse All right, so all I'm doing now is setting up my backing so that I can lay it all out, and I'm going to add a couple of pins in here, but I got to press it out first. So, making sure that it's really straight, making sure that everything is where it should be is very good. So now let's cut these edges off and square it up again. And this time we're squaring up everything, the backing, the batting, and the quilt top in this instance. So we are in the process of squaring it up. And I grabbed a whole different rotary cutter. That's my ergonomic rotary cutter. I love that thing too. So, all the cutters, all the notions, all the things. Now, let's take a look as we continue to cut this out and make sure that we got it all squared up. I'm just going to take a pair of shears and cut the rest of the fabric off there. Let's just cut it off and move on with life. Okay. Okay, so now all that cutting's done, so let's pin it down. Make sure that everything is flat as can be. It's so important to make sure that it's flat. So I'm spreading it out. I'm going to put a couple pins in there. Make sure it's flat. Then I'm going to go and stitch out around some of this so that it stays and I don't have to hold it down as much. So I'm just putting a couple pins in there. And then I'm going to take it over to my sewing machine and I will begin to stitch it up. So now let's watch. All right, back at the sewing machine. So now let's add this, what I call my tack down stitching. So that way I can stitch it really quickly. It'll hold it down and then I don't have to worry about it moving or shifting as I am finalizing the garment, because that is so important. Now we're going to walk through these little stitches and getting it stitched out and all that good stuff. So that way it doesn't move as I'm putting on the binding. So this is just the way. And then I'm going to do a little bit of cross stitching, quilting as I would call it, which just means that I am stitching in the ditch a little bit. This is my version of stitching the ditch. And then I do some parallel lines so that you can kind of see how quilting can form even if you're not on a quilter. You can literally take your sewing machine, but wait. Because guess what? I fouled up and I got to pick up the seam ripper, take those stitches out and redo that. So seam ripper, here I come. We're looking for the seam ripper and I don't know what I did with it. So many notions, so little time, but found it. There it is, my seam ripper. And now we have to take out some stitches. So we're going to take out some stitches so that we can make that nice and smooth on that corner there. And then once we do that, we'll be back in business, back up sewing and getting it ready again. All right, so we're almost done with this sewing piece. We'll have it all done. We got our binding already cut out. We're going to add that to the sides. And guess what, guys? It will be done. The quilting will be done on this bad boy just by stitching cross. I'm going to stitch across the different rows. Then I'm going to go at an angle is what you see here. I'm going at an angle and I'm just rolling at the angle. So that way it is causing the quilting. It really looks good, I must say so myself. It's pretty quick and easy. And look, there's Miss Linda. She finished her quilt. That was hers. Now I'm trying to get mine finished as I cut out the sides from around where I actually did all of my stitching and once I do that, then I'll be ready to apply my binding. See how it looks? Very nice. You know, it's really simple, couple of lines. And now let's add the binding. So all I'm going to do here is attach my binding with some clips. Once I have that attached, then I will go and I will actually sew this on, and then we'll be ready to flip it. All right, so all I'm doing here is attaching my binding, and I am doing the edges together. I'm clipping them on. I'll also do my little miter corners, and then I am ready to stitch this baby up, and it will be a little mini quilt. So let's just watch as I do all my little pinning. Where'd I go? I don't know. I went to grab my computer, I guess. Who knows why? But anyway, I digress. Let's go back to putting this on to our mini quilt. All we're doing is we're adding these on with the clips. Once these are added, I'll go through, sew it up, and then we will be absolutely 100% ready for bringing that binding to the front. So now I will stitch it from behind, and then I will literally bring it to the front. Now what you see me doing here is just pinning. And so I'm pinning everything down so that it's so much easier to try to put this binding on. Now, I did cut it on the bias so that will have a little stretch. And the pinning process takes a little while. It depends on you, but I like to have mine pinned up there so that way I can actually make sure that I get it in a straight line. So here's what it looks like putting it on. And we will continue that for a little bit now. And now you can kind of see what I'm doing here. Flipping it, coming across. That's me clipping my little corner so that I keep my little miter piece. You can see that. Now I'm going to clip it on the tip end, and we will be ready. So let's finish watching this. Almost done. Then we'll just stitch it up and be ready to rock and roll. Again, thank you guys so much for watching this. I appreciate it, but hold up, don't leave, because you still want to see the finished product. So I want to give you a great little overview of the finished product. So wait, don't go anywhere. Now, just watch this as I finish my final pieces of putting on the binding. And guys, when I sew this, I'm going to sew it from the back, and then I will pull that binding around to the front. Now, one of the things that I forgot to record as I was doing this is normally when I'm doing my binding, I use some of the glue or any type of adhesive that will hold down that fabric before I bring it over to my sewing machine. So all right, guys, that pinning process is done. Now it's time to take it and stitch it up. But guess what? I'm done. Here's the final project. That is my front. Here is the back. And so we finished our mini quilts tonight. And look at that. There's both of them, Miss Linda's and mine. And they came out so great. Thanks for watching, guys. Come back, hit like and subscribe. Bye.